I'm your host, Robert Wilson with Cowboy Wisdom Podcast. Tonight's presentation, 7 ways why I stopped healing my past and liberating my here and now. As I'm awakened and aware, I never need another fix as I suddenly lit my fire of forthright foresight, destroys healing that kept me looping through yesterday's wounds, rehearsing what I was all ready to release as my cognitive recollections kept replaying the pain of my situation. That's one thing about it. When something goes through the mind has a natural instinct to replay the pain of yesterday. And it understands because the pain of yesterday is actually our comfort zone of today. When you realize this, you can start liberating the now. As my emotional snapshots control my thinking, knowing, memory, mind, as my life is liberation, life liberation energizes my whys as I stopped patching the past and started listening to the breathline brilliance of my here and now. Wow, pulsing through my here and now with wisdom, optimism, and wondrous curiosity. The here and now is never broken. It's gladiator bold, unfiltered, instantly broadcast my sovereign signal waves of my intuitive innovations now and forevermore. Why I stopped healing my past to liberate my here and now. Wow. Healing kept me looping. Liberation lets me leap of literary enterprising acumen propelling me forward. Every time I tried to fix the past, I rehearsed it. And as I was realized healing was a rerun, never a revelation. Liberation happens when I stop patching old wounds and start dancing with the wild wisdom of now that's inside. See, the core of all of our situation is where the here and now wisdom resides and waits for us to question our way out of it. The past becomes a curriculum. I choose to drop out and tune in as self-help taught me to analyze, apologize, and overthink. But the now never needs therapy. It needs thunder of trend-setting hellraiser's utopian nerve, dawns, emancipating rapture. I stopped healing and started listening to my breathline brilliance, unfiltered and alive, as I am energizing my emancipating elegance to dance with my life and chauffeurs me down to my seashores of sovereign savvy. I stopped being a student of my scars and became a of sovereign of my spark, of my sassy tenacity, propelling autonomous, rebellious, keen, liberating energy. Healing asks me to revisit the plants. That's what healing does. Is you never get out because you keep the cognitive recollections, the mindset, landmines, and all the unwanted stuff in a situation. Healing keeps that alive and keeps you parked in the past. Liberation invited me to ignite the possibilities and the scenarios of Son of the Fun Splendor. As the here and now, wow, is where my intuitive innovator paints my dreamer's paradises in bold, unpunctuated, unrehearsed, uneducated color. Why the world is stuck in think, know, learn, knowledge, and thoughts. Thought has become the default, never the discovery. The world treats thinking as the highest form of intelligence, but thought is often just a rerun of yesterday's logic. We loop through learned knowledge, mistaking repetition for revelation. Real wisdom never rises from what you know. It erupts from what you dare yourself to experience and it's a here and now. Wisdom is get your hands dirty experiences of the here and now. What you dare to feel, question, and intuitively broadcast. Learning is programmed, never liberated. Most liberating systems are built to reinforce obedience, never ignite originality. You're taught to memorize, mimic, and master someone else's framework. That's the education system. Indoctrinated education is someone else's framework. And the world is stuck. Business and all that is somebody else's framework that we're stuck inside. The world stays stuck because it celebrates accumulation over activation. Knowledge becomes a cage when it's never questioned, never felt, and never friction tested. Knowing is used to avoid never knowing. We cling to knowing as a shield against mystery. But the unknown is where innovation lives, resides, and waits for us. The world resists intuitive fire because it fears the mess. Liberation is a mess of magical, enterprising, streaming splendor. The contradiction, the unedited brilliance that never fit the curriculum. Staying stuck in thought is safer than dancing with the sovereign chaos of unfoldment and broadcasting your talents around the world. Why think, know, learn, knowledge are unrealized saboteurs. Think and rehearse as safety, never revelations. The loops are comfort zones disguised as clarity. They replay yesterday's logic to avoid today's intuitive ignitions of your enterprising wizardry. You think to stay safe, yet safety rarely sparks the sovereignty. The saboteur hides in the assumption that thinking is progress. Knowing is a velvet cage, soft and familiar and invisible. And it's like you're the velvet cage is like being in a comfortable prison walls. You never feel the unsafe and the unrehearsed events of your life. Knowing feels empowering, yet it often blocks curiosity. You cling to what's proven and miss what's pulsing. The saboteur whispers you already know, so you stop listening to the breathline brilliance that it wants to erupt you out of yesterday to enjoy today's rapture. Learning mimics mastery while muting mystery. Learning as taught is a mimicry, absorb, repeat, obey. It rewards retention, never revelations. The saboteur wears a graduation cap and hands you someone else's map while your own terrain remains unexplored, where all your sovereign savvy and your autonomous acumen and all your autonomous adventures awaits you. Why healing keeps me loyal to the wounds, being a servant to my past boundaries. Healing kept me rehearsing pain instead of rewarding prescient presence of right now. I thought I was evolving, but I was looping. Each healing ritual becomes a rerun of the same emotional episode. I stayed loyal to the wound, mistaken repetition for revelation. Healing kept me decoding the past while ignoring the pulse of my here and now. I became fluent in trauma's language, yet I forgot how to speak the thunder of my trend-setting lightning bolt brilliance. I served the boundaries of who I was instead of broadcasting the brilliance of who I am. Healing kept me polishing the cage instead of breaking the lock. I decorated my pain with insight, therapy, and reflection, Yet the bars remained, and I stayed inside the vain pain of my own past. Liberation began when I stopped being a servant to my scars and started sculpting the spark of my scars, trend-setting savvy, celebrating adventurous resolve, streaming, I'm liberated today. Why change, heal, transformation, create forgiveness, lock and block my thinking, knowing, blocks me in my thinking, knowing, learned way of life, stifling me in subconscious mind, frozen in time, pain. Forgiveness becomes a performance, never a liberation. I was taught to forgive like a ritual obedience, apologize, release, repeat. Yet it kept me loyal to the wound, rehearsing the pain, instead of now riding my prescient presence of my here and now. Authentic liberation never asks for closure, it demands ignition of now with a natural, optimistic wanderer's curiosity. To understand, I rise out of forgiveness by appreciation. If I appreciate all my situations, I receive the vibrant value of my every situation. If you appreciate life, it's just like a house. The more you own it, the longer you own the house, the more you appreciate something, the more value, the visionary value you get out of a situation. Transformation becomes a curriculum of control. Change was sold as a step-by-step upgrade, but it was just a rebrand of the same old cage. I kept thinking, knowing, and learning my way into new version of the old me. The subconscious stayed frozen because the ritual never touched the breathline that instigated the innovation and of the subconscious mind. Healing became a loop that muted my now. I tried to heal by decoding the past, yet the mind kept looping trauma like a rerun. Creation stalled. My learned way of life became a saboteur, stifling my intuitive fire. With polite programming, liberation began when I stopped fixing and started broadcasting my wisdom and insight and clarity to the world and unleashing my sleek, unique talents. Why change, heal, create, transformation, forgiveness, replays past cognitive recollections and mindset landmines, viewpoints and opinions and beliefs, comfort zone programming, afraid of liberation, inspiration, questions, and intuition. So I'm awakened and aware, change, heal, create, transformation, and forgiveness. When filtered through programmed cognition, replay the landmines that resists the wild ignition of liberation, inspiration, questions, and intuition. They're taught as upgrades, yet built as yesterday's operating system. It's like today using the Microsoft or the updated computers, but going back to 1996 are using something back there. Change and healing often ride the rails of cognitive recollection, looping through mindset landmines, beliefs, and opinions inherited from comfort zone programming. You think you're transforming, but you're just repainting the cage with therapeutic colors. That is true. You think you're transforming, yet you're just repainting the cage with therapeutic colors. They soothe the system, never ignite the sovereign savvy. Forgiveness becomes a ritual of obedience. Transformation becomes a curriculum of control. Creation gets boxed into productivity. These concepts, when taught by a system, are designed to keep you polite, predictable, and programmable, afraid of intuitive fire that never asks permission. They fear the friction of intuitive ignitions. Liberation never comes from knowing, it comes from unknowing, as inspiration never comes from comfort, it erupts from contradiction, Questions dissolve programming. Intuition now writes nowality. That's why the system teaches you to fear them. They're the saboteurs of obedience and the sculptors of sovereignty. Why think, know, learn knowledge is unrecognized liberation, wisdom, insight, and clarity. The thinking mimics the control, yet masks curiosity. We're taught to think as a way to solve, fix, and explain, rarely to wonder with a wanderer's wisdom to see the core surgency of your own talents. Thought becomes a tool of containment, never expansion. Liberation lives in the questions you're afraid to ask. Never the answers we're trained to repeat. That's the thing. We're trained to find answers and solutions, then we're trained to repeat them, and we never ask a question of liberation to liberate internal brilliance every day. Realizing adventurous, trend-setting, intuitive, omnific, nomadic nerve chauffeurs us through life. Knowing feels like a rival but blocks the revelation. Knowing is celebrated as certainty, yet often resists contradiction. It builds walls of opinion and belief and viewpoints that obscure intuitive clarity. Authentic insight is never found in what you know, it's revealed in what you're willing to unknow, unlearn, and open up to the wisdom, insight, and clarity of the situation. Learning is praised as progress, yet rarely invites presence. Learning as is programmed and is an accumulation, never activation. You gather facts, pass tests, and obey frameworks, as liberation requires friction, never curriculum. Wisdom is born and explored and expressed from intuitive ignition, never cognitive recollection. Why is think, know, learn knowledge is from yesterday keeping me replaying my mimic and mindsets. Laundering, never hearken to liberation, wisdom, clarity from my daily events. Yesterday's knowledge is a rerun, never a revelation. Think, know, learn loops are built on cognitive recollections, never intuitive eruptions. They replay what was once useful but are now outdated. Mimic mindsets echoed the maps of yesterday, keeping you loyal to the terrain you've already outgrown. That's the thing. We've outgrown a lot of the terrain, but yet we stay there. It's like a lot of us, and I realize this in myself, a lot of us, we've grown and risen out of high school, but we still have a lot of the same stuff as our parents in our childhood. And that goes for everybody in the world. Mimicry masquerades as mastery, yet we're taught to learn by copying, knowing, by memorizing, and thinking by rehearsing. Yet the mimicry mutes the mystery, it blocks the breathline brilliance that wants to speak through you, not as a student, but as a sovereign spark of sovereign savvy. Liberation never knocks, it ignites. Insight and clarity never come from what you know. They arrive when you stop obeying yesterday's logic and start listening and hearkening to the here and now thunder and lightning boldness within yourself. The mind wants comfort. The breathline wants combustion. Why self-help, personal growth, self-improvement, therapy programming, punctuated writing stall people out in the past. They curate the wound instead of contouring your here and now. Wow. Self-help often teaches you to analyze, label, and process pain, yet rarely to dissolve it. You become a curator of your trauma and drama museum, polishing old stories instead of sculpting the fresh sparks of your harkened Hellraiser's trend-setting adventurous audacity. Punctuation marks freeze the flow. The programming loops the logic. They turn growth into grammar. Structured, safe, and system approved. Personal growth becomes a checklist. Therapy becomes a script. Punctuated writing teaches you to pause where you should pulse your prowess. You obey the format instead of feeling the fire. Liberation never follows a sentence structure. It erupts in breathline brilliance. They keep you loyal to the past by rewarding reflection over revelation. You're taught to look back, dig deep, and decode. Yet the deeper you dig, the more you unrehearse, installing insight, insight stalls, clarity dims, the now awaits, unpunctuated and wild, ready to broadcast your sovereign signals when you dare to stop healing and start igniting your light of life. Why cowboy wisdom, hypnoacuity, energetic liberation, energized listening, maverick questions, autonomous expansion, politically incorrect inspiration, cowboy wisdom, orchestrated contours, outlaw optimism, and revolutionary revelation demolish my being a servant to my past overthinking, ancestor knowing, yesterday's learning, enslaving knowledge, past cognitive recollections, mindset landmines, and comfort zone programming. Cowboy wisdom rides beyond the ancestor knowing into the breathline revelations. It never honors the past by repeating it. It ignites it to the here and now. You stop being a servant to the inherited beliefs, opinions, and viewpoints of other people and instantly sculpt your sovereign insight from friction, never folklore. Hypnoacuity dissolves overthinking with intuitive precision. It bypasses the mimicries of mindset landmines and pierces the subconscious freeze frames of blame, shame, and all the other crap that goes with it. You never analyze, you activate. Thought loops melt into thunderous clarity and lightning bolt brilliance. Energized listening tunes into the now, whispering winds of wisdom, never hearing yesterday's echoes of what was wrong. So it opens up today's heavenly heydays as I stopped decoding cognitive recollections and started hearkening the pulse of my present prowess and my here and now nomadic optimism. It's not about, never about understanding, it's about broadcasting. As maverick questions detonate comfort zone programming, they never seek polite answers, they spark sovereign ignition. Each question is an orchestrated contour bomb that exposes a cage and invites outlaw optimism to rise, shine, and energize your day. Autonomous expansion refuses to be taught. It chooses to erupt with enterprising, rebellious, utopian prowess today. You never grow by curriculums. You expand by contradiction. Liberation is never learned, it's experienced. You become the orchestrator of your own contours by listening and hearkening and blessing yourself with your daily adventures. Politically incorrect inspiration shatters system-approved self-help. It never soothes, it stewars my fiery foresight, ignites my light of life. It never fixes, it fractures. You stop healing and instantly unveiling your inner rising insights that become your insurgent clarity of your soul savvy, because it becomes contagious. Revolutionary revelations demolish the architecture of obedience. They never ask permission. They contour craft your unique talents as you of your now with glyphs, chants, and breath lines that refuse punctuation. You stop being a servant to your past and instantly broadcasting your sovereign signal waves of brave to walk through life with the greatest of ease. I'm awakened and aware of the dare. Cowboy wisdom demolishes my and your obedient past. I never escaped. I erupted of incorruptible fortitude. As cowboy wisdom, hypnoacuity, and energetic liberation never soothes my scars, instantly detonates and blasts my yesterday's programming to smithereens. Through my energized listening, maverick questions, politically incorrect inspiration, I hearken to wisdom so as I stop being a servant to my ancestors' knowing, overthinking, and mindset landmines. As my revolutionary revelations sculpted my outlaw optimism and autonomous expansion, contour crafting my here and now wow, beyond my comfort zone cages, enslaving knowledge. This never, this is never healing. It's ignition of my free flowing energy. As my heart hearkens, my inspiration, innovation, imagination, intuition, orchestrated contours show for me on to my beaches of vulnerable bliss, unleashing my soul gratitude and heart appreciation for me as I'm free and sovereign today because I rose out of my past in a bold, bright way. I want to thank you. I am Robert A. Wilson, and may your day be as blessed as you are a blessing to me in the world. Thank you.